Welcome to the after party. Welcome to the after party. Did you bring some snacks and treats?
Yes, it did.
I hope you got me something to eat.
Maybe.
Welcome to the after party. Coming to the after party.
Right now.
I've been waiting here all day to act like a fool this way. Welcome to the after party. Join us in the after party.
Right now.
Oh, chocolate and gabbing, maybe some microphone gabbing at the after party.
With DJ Eric, Pagey,
and Darren on this weird time spot. This is going to be like, people are going to have to get used to this one because it's like really strange for me to be live on Tuesdays at like 5:30 in the afternoon. So we'll see where this goes. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a good day. A lot of people probably going to be watching this on playback, but just know that moving forward, the after party will be on Tuesday afternoons at 5:30 for the next 9 weeks. And it will be leading into Party Nation with Lance. So if you haven't seen Party Nation, they're going to be live right after we're done or thereabouts, depending on, I don't know if they run late or not. I have no idea. I haven't been over there in ages because I usually work on Tuesdays. I mean, I do work actually, but just not this early. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so yes, the after party is returning for the next 9 weeks. We're going to determine where it'll go after that. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the show long term, but that's kind of the plan, is to definitely have it on for Superman and Lois. And I'm excited to talk about that. And we have a couple of pretty interesting DC stories we might get into if we have time. But today I'm joined with Pagey, DJ Eric's baby oil haul over here, and we have Darren down below.
Hello.
I have to say,
I was the Party Nation intro, or the after party intro. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. I was telling Pagey before we got started that I had to go through and find the right one because there's two versions on StreamYard, and one of them doesn't have him on it. So I have to remember which one was which because they just say intro to after party. So it's like one of them is like 3 seconds longer, but I couldn't remember if that was the right one or the wrong one. So he came into the thing and he's like, "Wait, are we starting?" Because it was playing as he was coming in. So anyway, so we had the first 2 episodes of Superman and Lois. I have to say, it felt really good to be on social media and see people actually talking about something as it was airing. Normally I would be like, I hate spoilers, but I really just enjoyed watching people sort of interact on Twitter and say, I love this, I didn't love that, and all of those things, and, you know, theorizing about stuff. And for the next 9 weeks, it's going to feel like old times, which I'm really happy about.
Yesterday there was a really weird feeling of deja vu and almost sadness because I know it's not going to last. But yesterday it was like Super Lois came back and it was the Flash's 100th, so it reminded me. Everyone was talking about like CW DC TV, and again it was like, whoa, I've missed this feeling. It's been so long.
I am curious what the numbers are going to be like for viewership on the CW. Are we thinking it's going to be pretty high, or is it more like people are going to wait for it on streaming? Like, what do we think is going to happen?
I mean, I wouldn't expect anything groundbreaking. I'd assume it's probably going to be below what it was last year, just because it's like it's been over. It's probably a year and a half or something, roughly. Since
it's been a minute, and like I feel like in our circle, if it's like, oh, everyone's talking about it, everyone's doing a thing, but it's like, well, we in our little circle, it seems like that, but in the large scale of like television people. Are people actually watching it, or is it?
I mean, like if you're basing it off your Twitter feed, then like someone that follows like you could watch some like incredibly niche Romanian dress-up show or something and be like, oh my god, everyone's talking about this show. I'm like, yeah, because that's all you're following.
Sure.
Romanian dress-up show people.
I will say, I do think the promotion's been better than it has been these last couple of years. Like, I feel like they did a lot of like interviews and like photos and like posters and trailers and stuff that they typically, sometimes Super and Lois would do, but I feel like CW in a while haven't done stuff like that. So that's been nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it felt good. And you're right. The, all the stuff with the Flash and the Flash actually premiering the same time, like when it was first, like the first season and all that. And it was like, oh my God, all this is sort of happening. And it was like this overflow of emotion. And the reality is, literally up until about 15 minutes before the show's aired, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to watch it live because I was having issue getting the CW to work for me. Simply because this area has a really bad relationship with the CW, I guess, in terms of affiliate stations. But yeah, I've got my notes over here, and what we're gonna do is this isn't gonna be long as like a Nocturnal Nerdcast, which is normally like a 2 hour or two or 3 hour stream, because we do have other people streaming today, and I want to try and be a little bit courteous. So the stream will be about 1 hour and 20 minutes. So we're trying to make it really compact. So that's why it's just me, Pagey, and Darren today. And you know, what I'll do is I'll probably invite like 1 or 2 guests on directly each week, just to make sure that we have enough time to talk about the episodes. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. So anybody that's looking for like the big guests, we remember like 5, 6, 7 people, that's going to be Thursday night for the Nocturnal Nerdcast, just so you guys know. We'll be talking about a bunch of topics. We're going to have so much news this week, it's ridiculous to talk about. We do have a super chat from Naruto here before we get into Superman and Lois. And it is sad. I did see this today. That Chaos had been canceled. A $5 super chat here. Thank you. I appreciate it, Naruto. I don't even know what to say anymore. I mean, this was a show that was a very unique show. The story was different from anything that we ever heard. Like, it's just one of those things where people want new IPs. They want new things that they can watch and get into. And streaming services now, I feel like we're going to go back to the way it was with network television eventually, where it's about ad revenue and things like that. I mean, I don't know what to do anymore with shows where like something like this and Dead Boy Detectives, where the shows do well, like they do well in terms of like their viewership, but then they still get canceled.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do anymore as a fan when you like something if tuning in isn't even enough to get the show to get renewed?
I do think conversation is a big thing for Netflix. I feel like if there aren't like online conversations happening about these shows, then they just won't get picked up. It's just plain and simple. And like, even if these shows do well, like you have Jeff Goldblum at the helm of that show. That's a big name actor. And that doesn't even really matter anymore. It's just like, well, no one talked about it, so get rid of it.
Yeah, it's kind of infuriating too, because I feel like if I was a person creating a show for a streaming service, I would go into it thinking it's a limited series, and that's how I'd run the show. Like, I would just really leave as many loose ends as possible at the end. It just doesn't make any sense. But thanks for the super chat, Naruto. All right, so Superman and Lois, we are almost 10 minutes into the stream. Let's go ahead and get into this. We have the first 2 episodes. Thank goodness, I will say, I'm so glad that they did these 2 back-to-back because of the way the first episode ended. I would have been so mad waiting like a whole week for the next installment. I mean, I'm kind of frustrated anyway because of the way the second episode ended, but at least it felt like they ended a particular portion of the story in these 2 episodes with like the stuff with the family and Lex. So the first 2 episodes were titled, I believe it's called The End and the Beginning and A World Without. I think those were the first 2 episode titles when I looked them up. Again, very smart to do a double premiere. So many commercials, though. This is the thing. I noticed a lot of people saying on social media they forgot how many commercials run during these shows. And it's because we haven't had to watch them in a while. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't had to sit through commercials. But I think it was Canada Graphs. I don't know if he's coming in tonight or not, but he was really like, why are there so many commercials? It was so funny. Are you guys like, are we spoiled by no commercials now? Or is it like, did it bother you at all while you're watching? Because I know, Darren, you watch it on network television as well as I do, and Paige, you watch it streaming through a network thing, so you have commercials as well. So,
I don't know. Like, for the past like month, I've been watching like the finals of like playoff football in the like over here, and it's on free to air. So there's an ad every fucking like 3 minutes. Like whenever if they get the tiniest little opportunity to chuck up a car ad or McDonald's Monopoly is back in action. Like if they get any chance to do that, they've been doing it. So to be honest, the CW ads were a bit actually more lenient than what I've been used to for the past month or so.
I miss the days when ads used to pop up at the bottom and they didn't really interfere with the what you were watching. You know what I mean? Like, what happened to that? they do away with those altogether?
I'm someone who doesn't like hate ads all the time because I think it's a fun chance. Like if you're watching with someone else, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, can't believe that just happened!" Like what's going to happen? Like get a chance to kind of talk about it. Where bugs me is like Hulu. I've been watching a lot of Hulu recently, and it's like the same 3 ads over and over and over again. It's like
streaming service ads seem to be very limited. They seem to be very limited, and I think it's kind of one of those things where they're auto generated into the thing, so just kind of picks from a pool of ads that have been paid for, kind of like how YouTube does. So I don't know. Does it go to HBO Max afterwards? No. I don't know. I think you have to wait for the whole season to end, and then it'll go to Max.
It's a couple months after the season airs usually. But it's all on the CW app if you're in the US.
Yep,
so.
You have to watch it on the CW app. So good luck with that one. May the odds ever be in your favor. All right, so let's talk about some of my favorite strong points from the episodes. Everybody can sort of chime in. I think the family dynamic is being stretched in a good way because of the storyline requiring them to sort of band together. And when I talk about that, I mean like Lois and the 2 boys. The lack of support characters is real these first 2 episodes, which is one of the notes I took here. It's very noticeable that they cut back with supporting characters. And I want to point out, and I noticed a lot of people saying this, and Pagey, you have talked about this for a decade now or more about these supporting characters. Everyone complains about how little time goes to the quote unquote main characters because of the supporting cast. And Pagey, you've always said like those characters have to be there because they fill in time that sometimes would have to be padded for the main storyline. Yeah. And I think we kind of felt that in these first 2 episodes without having that supporting cast. Although I will say no Kyle and Chrissy is okay with me. We can, like, all supporting characters are valid except for those 2. Those 2 are not valid. You know, I have a lot to say about the Lana stuff as well. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Pagey, did you notice the lack of like support in the episode, or did you appreciate it, or how did you feel about that?
I think it was only noticeable in the second episode. In the second episode, I was like, oh, okay. And like you can feel like they were trying to fill in some of that stuff where like I think they clearly added in like the Chuck guy, the small resident thing, like that small little bit there. Like you probably didn't need that, but that would have been a scene where they would have gone to Kyle or Chrissy or John Henry and Natalie just to do a bit of a status update with what's going on there in another episode. And even some of the stuff where like Lex in the diner, you know, where like with you know, like it was pretty prolonged, like him in the diner. I know it was to add like suspense and stuff like that, which I actually appreciated. So I didn't necessarily think it was just put in there for the sake of it. But right. I feel like if the supporting characters are there, they probably wouldn't even do that, or they do it in a smaller way, or they'd have those supporting characters in the diner as well. So it'd be Lex with Sarah, but then also maybe John Henry and Natalie if they're having dinner or something like that. So just little things like that. But I think it was only like in the second episode. And I think it was more because like once we got to the second episode, like a day had passed, and I was like, wait, are they not going to learn about what's happened here?
Yeah.
Like, so, but obviously, but it's not like they skipped a week. Like it's only been a day or something, like the following day since what happened with Superman, you know, once we're in episode 2 and stuff like that. So, I guess once we're in episode 3, it won't be as, you know, weird, I guess, that they're not there.
What about you, Darren? Did you feel like the lack of support there?
I definitely felt like there were like, I guess, kind of holes missing. Like I feel like what Superman Lois, I actually think Superman Lois has had some of the best supporting cast members in almost any of the Arrowverse stuff. Like I think they do such a great job at making, you know, their environments feel so full. So when they're not there, they definitely do feel very missing. To me, I think John Henry was the biggest count of that, because John Henry was there when the attack happened last season. He was seeing what was happening. You kind of expected last season to be like, okay, he's going to go suit up and he's going to go help Superman in the sky, and you know, good thing he didn't, because he would have got murdered on the spot. But like you do wonder, like, where is John Henry during all this? Why isn't he suiting up? Why isn't he helping the Kents? Like, I feel like he'd be one of the first people there to be like, yes, let's figure out what are we doing here, kind of thing.
Do you think, and maybe you guys have read more about this, I tried to find it before we went live just to see if it was anywhere. Do you think that this is a product of them having to manage the final season and not having the budget to have everybody there? Do you think that's what this was? Is it?
Oh, yeah. I think it's more like it's more important for John Henry to be in episode 3 and episode 6 than to be in episode 2 or 1. Like it's,
Right.
but with Lana, it made 100%, and Sarah, it made 100% sense that they're in episode 2, like, and like the role that they play there, and it backs up what they were saying that like maybe in previous seasons, these supporting characters were just there to flesh out the town and flesh out the main characters, but they actually serve their purposes. Like Lana serves a big purpose, and like it's going to continue. Now she's decided to make herself a potential victim of Lex Luthor.
Right.
And then Sarah had her own thing there as and role, and it had really nothing to do with Jordan either. It was more to do with Jonathan, which I was actually sort of surprised by.
Yeah, I actually, like, I heard people being like, Lana didn't need to be in this episode. They should have just done John. I was like, Lana, outside of Lois and the boys, is probably the closest to Clark in the show. Like, she's known, I think she's known Clark the longest out of any character.
Since our kids. Since our kids,
no, it made, to me, 100% why, like, I'm glad she got a little bit of that grieving moment to be like, no, my friend's gone. Like, what, like, oh my gosh. Like, I actually really liked that moment, and I think I would have been a little disappointed if they didn't have that moment there. And, of course, again, Sarah's a good support for the boys, because really their only friend in the show is, like, it's Sarah. I guess kind of Natalie now, but, like, I'm glad that she was there to kind of help support the boys as well. So, yeah, I'm glad Lana and Sarah was in the second episode.
I also want to point out they had a lot of flashbacks to like moments with Lois and Clark. We had stuff with Lois and Lex, which, by the way, shout out to this haircut.
Is that Darren?
Someday,
it was this was jarring for me because outside of seeing him with no hair, this doesn't really jump out as being like, oh wow, this looks really weird. But it went from like him completely shaved bald to this, and I was like, is this The Walking Dead? Are we going back to The Walking Dead?
It's very Abraham.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, hold on, full beard, full head of hair. Just like, okay, this is funny. It just made me laugh. It was pretty silly. But we got the flashbacks. What are like? I feel like the flashbacks definitely. They were kind of necessary because of the lack of Tyler's presence in the episode. We're going to get to the big battle stuff here in a moment. I have a lot to say about that, but not having him there with the other characters, we kind of needed those moments, and it makes sense within the story. You know, sometimes it's like when you're watching an episode of TV and you see like a character that needs to be there and they're kind of shoved in. Like, okay, a good example is Supergirl. The season where she was stuck away from everybody else for like how many episodes? I think it was like 5 or 6 episodes. She was in the Phantom Zone. I don't remember how many it was.
It was like 5 or
but
6,
it was just very clear that they had to have her there because it is about Supergirl, and they tried to make a story work that felt so disjointed to me. And even when it finally came together, it still didn't make a lot of sense from that perspective. Whereas in this one, you're getting flashbacks because Tyler needs to be there, but it actually helps the story as well, because a lot of people that I watched the show with here didn't understand why Lex had such a problem with Lois, considering that a lot of people worked hard to put him behind bars. He seemed to just really have an issue with Lois, and we finally got an opportunity to see why it was so personal for him, and it's because of his daughter. And I think this is a really strong revelation. What do you guys feel about this whole daughter thing? Do you think this was always the plan, or do you think it just kind of came later in the game? Because I don't think anything like this was mentioned previously, right? I don't think it was ever talked about.
You had the photo last season, like Lex looked at the photo when he got out of prison and stuff like that.
Yeah. So. I mean, like with Lois though, I don't think that this like we didn't see any like connection with Lois until now. So I think that was good world building, right? Like building the story up, because honestly, it makes sense. They could have came up with a really stupid reason. You know, I think this is a really strong reason. You make it child, you make it personal, it tugs on the heartstrings. Now, in the comics, I know that there's a Lex Luthor Jr. Does he have a daughter in the comic books?
I don't know.
I think in some interpretations, like Lena Luthor is his daughter.
Because did they say her name? Did they say her name?
Her name's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth,
or Lizzie. I think, yeah. But yeah, so like but then again, like Superman and Lois is always sort of not tampered like in a negative way, but played around with the canon and stuff to fit their show and stuff.
Yeah. I understand the Lena stuff. I get that. I'm talking about this particular character. Sorry, I wasn't being specific. Like this person, because I'd never heard the name before connected to Luther. So I'm like, is this a new child that we haven't heard about? Or, yeah, I wasn't totally sure. Now, is this going to be an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing with her here? Because I know a certain person from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is supposed to be playing her. I'm so happy to see that, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel like I loved her on that show. So seeing her come over here, I can't wait to see. Hopefully she gets something meaningful. I hope they don't just like shove her in like half of an episode or something. I would hate that, but I think that would be very fun because, I don't know, seeing her without Fitz, is it going to be the same? I don't know.
That's the whole back half of S.H.I.E.L.D., man. Her and Fitz were always getting separated.
Cody, that is funny. Elizabeth playing Elizabeth is funny. Yes, that is. It's pretty hilarious. All right, we got a couple super chats before we move on to the next topic. Naruto here. Oh, this was from earlier. I'm covering up Darren. There we go. $5 super chat. I haven't had the chance to watch Superman and Lois yet, so I'll watch the stream later. The CW app keeps crashing on me. I've actually seen so many people on social media say that they get like halfway through the episode and then an ad tries to run and it crashes the app. That's what I've seen. So
that app is so terrible, man. I'm so excited to delete it once the season is over because sometimes I got to catch it later on if I miss it, but it's so bad.
Speaking of that, like Paige, you sent this to me the other day. That what is it, Julia? I think that's the show. Joan, that's it. Got bumped from its time slot after one episode to like a dead Friday night.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, I guess if it's not,
I don't know. Like,
I don't care anymore.
Well, I don't know because it did swap with Inside the NFL, and it's sort of random having Inside the NFL on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also, yeah, I'm not too sure because I think that might have. I think they moved it because I think college football's on maybe there is on a Friday night or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they're competing with that, or maybe they want to put a game. Well, no, they wouldn't because they put Joan there. But I don't know. But I don't know what because I don't know. Is there any Joan fans out there? Because
I didn't even know. To be quite honest, I didn't even remember that was coming out on the CW. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, I remember hearing about the show, but I just.
Yeah, but I'm just curious because I know that it has boobies in it, and I was just very curious how it was edited.
Oh, we talked about that, about how they were going to do that on.
Yeah, I don't know what they did. I don't know if they Swamp Thinged it, where there's just like a convenient.
It makes me wonder if people that tuned in expected them to show that, and they didn't. They're like, I'm not watching this again. They tuned out immediately. I wonder if that's happened. So.
It's been about a year and a half since I watched anything on the CW, and the Super Lois ended last year, and then all the ads for all these new shows. I'm like, how depressing. It's just football and wrestling, and Joan is the only show that looks somewhat like a real show, and it's like the freaking Scrabble. Like they kept showing an ad for Scrabble. It's like, how sad is this?
Let me tell you, the amount of people that were like, they could have literally just played it with their friends at home because that's what it was. It was like the most boring TV show ever. I was like, yeah, I can see that. You might as well just play Jackbox together. Why not?
Yeah.
All right. Turbo Studios with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Turbo. Yes, so this is interesting. I'm 90% sure that Tom Cavanaugh is going to be Brainiac. If they manage to do this, unless it's been debunked already, I am totally here for this. Normally, I don't like this type of stuff where you take a villain that's really well known and then you put him in another role or whatever. But I actually could see Tom Cavanaugh killing Brainiac.
Yeah.
As a role. Any objections to that from you guys, or?
I jokingly said that, I think it was on Council, or Party Nation or something, weeks ago. We're like, what if he's Brainiac? I'd be so stupid. And then, last night, once they said it, I was like, oh, what if they do? Tom Cavanaugh's in the season. They might just be like, hey, you played that villain. You want to come over and play this villain for some weird thing? I don't know what he'll look like. If they'll do, the makeup look, maybe you won't even be able to tell. It'll just be, a voice thing.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's how they can kind of get away with it and not everyone being like, hey, that's Tom Cavanaugh. I don't know. Because I don't know what else you do with Tom Cavanaugh. I don't, know what else you can put him in where it's not wait, isn't that Wells? I feel like that might be a weird thing for people. So who knows?
Let's see here. That. Pagey, you any thoughts on Tom Cavanaugh?
I guess it somewhat makes sense because we know he's not in the finale, so he's probably going to be from somewhere from episode 5 through to I don't know what, 7 or 8 or something like that. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, I have seen people wondering if it's actually going to be. He might just be. If they do Brainiac and they show Brainiac, it's like a hologram in the Fortress of Solitude, which is. I mean, they've shown other characters in the Fortress of Solitude before, just like a random, like CGI sort of makeup thing. Yeah, I don't know, but it's interesting because they said the issue is that they teased. There's 2 options that they can go down because they said that they're going to tease a name early in the season, and you'll hear it again, then you eventually see it. So is that Brainiac or is that Lex Luthor's daughter? But then you can see a photo of her on the wall, like you see Elizabeth Henstridge on the wall, like they did the Photoshop thing and put her in like university photos and stuff like that. So, because I wasn't too sure if they're going to do that, and then obviously that's why they announced the thing. Actually, you know what I heard. I don't know if this is the case, but apparently some journalist did a YouTube review, and they revealed that Elizabeth Henstridge was playing, and that's why it came out. So they spoiled it, I guess, because I think it was meant to be revealed. Of course they did in episode 2, and some people that got the early things, someone spoiled it. So they spoiled that she's playing the character, and then that's why it got announced. I don't know if that's 100% true, but the timing lines up.
You know, I saw Canada Graphs posted some pictures last night, and I was like, these are finale pictures you're posting right now? I think he posted like 4 pictures from his finale.
But you know what? Interestingly enough, I don't know if you're going to show, but because I was wondering, because everyone's going on that like Tyler Hoechlin's getting this new suit and it's going to have trunks, but I'm like, we saw the finale photos and he's wearing his normal Superman suit.
Yeah, I saw that too. I think it was because of the artwork from the poster. They said,
yeah, I think it's just like weird shading because of the belt and stuff like that. But like clearly he's going to have to get a new suit because spoiler, Doomsday decided to not only rip out his heart but take the crest along with it.
But it makes me wonder if the finale photos of him in that suit are not current. They might be flashbacks, or they take place somewhere else, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Or maybe he wears the only thing is that he wears a regen suit for the first. Oh, when he comes out, not out of the closet, but out of the little coffin thing that he's in. Yeah. And there's like a regen suit or something that helps him because obviously he's not in the sun; he's indoors. Like, well, he's in ice, literally. So yeah, I wonder if that's the thing there, but. Maybe that's the new suit. That's because I remember, was it Bitsy Tulloch that said there's a new detail on the suit or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless the only thing I can think of is that the cape has his S symbol on the back of it. That's the only thing I can think of. If that is his new suit, because on the front just looks like his old suit. I know it's a Canada Guy's photo, so it's taken with a potato, but it still looks like the old suit for the most part, like the one from last season.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about. Let's see. Let me present the picture here. Actually, I don't want to do that because I would probably get hit with a copyright. So let's do this one here.
Oh, do it! I love a copyright.
Yeah, I don't feel like fighting with them. You know, the other day, when we watched on the Nocturnal Roadcast, we had a couple trailers we watched, and not only did it get copyright claim, but it got blocked for like 24 hours. It took 24 hours for them to release it. I was so annoyed. So annoyed. All right, so let's talk about the battle between Doomsday and Superman that kind of went through most of the episode before we got the big shocking moment when they come back to Earth. I want to say this is part of the reason why I really appreciate the CW DC TV shows, whether it be Arrowverse or any of the other ones, is they are giving us stuff that it takes the studios in the movie division forever to do. Or they just don't get it right. Now, I understand this version of Doomsday isn't the exact same one from the comics, right? I get that. But they went through the trouble of visually having this version of Doomsday turn into the one that looks most like the comic book version. It seemed to be a huge threat to Superman. No matter how hard he fought, he just could not win. It really felt like a nod to those stories. The fidelity from the comics coming over, keeping all of that there. And it looked good. This is a TV show. Like,
Yeah.
The budget is tiny for these shows. It's not even a streaming show. It has a much, much smaller budget. I think this looked amazing.
Yeah.
And not just because it was a TV show. I think there were parts of it that looked really solid even outside of that. Yes, there were some moments where the green screen was kind of blah, 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 whatever. I love the way they made Doomsday move. It almost felt like stop motion in some moments, like a stop motion, like one of those like 80s or 90s things.
But it felt like because he was this larger than life being. It's like, you know, when you see like Godzilla, for example, when he, I know it's such a weird comparison, but Godzilla doesn't, when he runs, it looks like he's fucking in slow motion because it's just I mean, if you look at like Ant-Man in the Marvel movies when he gets big, when he's running, but it looks super slow. But then like, you know, when something's small like an ant, like you're looking at an ant, looks like it's the Flash on the floor. You're like, what the hell? That dude's running really fast, but he's tiny. Well, he's not. Anyway, so it's like that larger than life being, but I didn't mind it. And also, you gotta remember he's got like super speed, so like you don't know necessarily like when he's moving that he's just his arms are moving really quickly when he's doing it. I did find it funny when this shot was on here. Obviously, I could see this being a meme if people want to have the potential to make it a meme. Because it's like euphoric almost, like when mum brings KFC home or something like that. Then of course would be negative, like when the KFC hits 4 hours later and you're on the toilet and you're struggling. So it could be a double. It could go both ways. But I found it funny because I was like, is that Rock intentionally in front of his chest right now? Like,
yes, 100%.
Because the thing is,
100%.
I didn't know Doomsday had taken his heart when it happened. I was like, he's got his fist closed. I'm like, okay, maybe he's just punched directly into Superman's chest. But I was like, surely he didn't take his heart because you could see like the red things on his fist. But I was like, I think that's just the shield and stuff like that. And I was like, I know maybe it is some blood and guts or something like that, some flesh there. But yeah, obviously I don't know if that was to cover the gore factor of it or just to sort of not really give away that his chest had been ripped out.
It might have been a little bit of both. I think maybe they were trying to also keep it fitting into the 8:00 time slot without giving away the story. Because the shocking moment is like, so before we get there, because I do want to get there and talk about that, but Darren, any thoughts on this fight at all? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
No, I thought it was great. I wish they wouldn't have showed it at San Diego Comic-Con because it was like I would have rather seen all of that in the episode itself. I was like, oh yeah, this is the footage we saw there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple shots where I'm like, oh, that looks a little funky, but like for like network TV, like incredible. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, 100%.
Like Flash would have never gave us a scene like this, I don't think.
No.
I mean, there's good stuff on like there's some good scenes in that show that look good, but like
they gave us lightsabers. They gave us lightsabers.
I mean, that like King Shark fight in season 2 was incredible. Like you had stuff like that, but like
there was something very what word am I looking for? Cinematic about this scene for TV. And I also want to point out just the way they kicked this off, like picking up kind of where it left off, you know, at the end of the season, where they're kind of like facing off against each other, and then the moon is kind of getting ripped up, and gravity is acting wonky and stuff like that. I mean, it really was Superman sort of trying as hard as he could to defeat this Doomsday creature because he wasn't worried about, like, am I going to hurt my family? Am I going to hurt people around me? It really was letting go. And if you guys have seen the cartoons, you know that when Superman actually does 100% let go, it's pretty incredible. And, you know, you see him sort of like take a deep breath in. He starts to do his heat vision. And that's still not enough to stop Doomsday. Yeah. And then we're back on Earth with everybody. And of course, Lois and everyone they have this faith in Superman, which I think the purpose of that was to build up this big moment where he gets defeated by Doomsday. Doomsday brings him back to Earth, lands in Smallville, doing the old, the Zoom thing with them holding his head in his hand or whatever, like he did with Barry. It's like, does he take lessons from Zoom? But he's doing that there, and we don't really see it. He's got his back, he's holding him with his back facing everyone else. And at that moment, it's like everyone's running away.
Am I the only... Is he frozen, or...?
No, I don't think so.
I can't hear Eric.
Uh-oh.
What?
Oh, there we go. Now he's back for me.
I thought I was okay. I'm watching both of my screens here.
You're okay for me as well.
Well, yeah, it was weird. Darren was fine. I could talk to Darren, and Eric was just like... spinning around.
This time it wasn't me. This time it wasn't me. It was
how can that
internet, so.
StreamYard? How
it could be StreamYard, 100%.
But how can that even be fucking possible? Darren's still there, alive and breathing. He can hear me, and you're lagging. But then Darren's like, "No, Eric's fine."
I think YouTube has something against me. It might have been YouTube. I would say it's YouTube conspiracy theory. So we have him there, and you see the family all together. At this moment when this was happening, I was like, they're totally gonna know that that's Clark. Like everybody in town is gonna know that's Clark at this point because Lois is screaming, the kids are screaming. It just seemed like an emotional reaction to something more than it being Superman. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of tosses him away. At that point, also, I thought Doomsday was going to sort of like have a moment with Lois because we know that's Bizarro. So I was like, is he going to see her differently because he knows Lois? He had a life with Lois. He had, the kids and everything. Is he going to see her that way, or
how much of him is left though? Like, I almost feel like he's not even a person at this point. He's just like a monster. Like, I wonder, maybe that's like a plot line later in the season, like her trying to like relate with with Doomsday, trying to get him back somehow.
Because I honestly don't see any way out of this based on what we have left for the show. And I know we'll talk about the previews for the next episode when we get there. But I really thought that was a moment they could have had that like together or whatever. But then, he flies away and leaves, Superman's body there. And we see them kind of like laying over top of him. We still don't see the hole in the chest. But then we flash away and see Doomsday giving Superman's heart to Lex Luthor. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, holy shit. He ripped Superman's heart out of his chest? How are we going to fix this? That's all I kept thinking. I'm like, there's no way. Like, this isn't just restarting somebody who's died. He's missing his heart completely. Now, I have some theories on what that's going to mean, what I think might happen and what that might mean later on. But before I get there, any thoughts on that? Do you guys have any theories, any speculations? Because now we see Superman has been, Jordan took him to the fortress. He's in stasis. What do we think here?
I mean, more so for episode 2. Like, I got theories on the heart. Like, I don't know if you want to jump there already, but like,
yeah, go ahead.
Like the heart that, like, we see him like crush the heart, and we're like, Jordan's like, no, I don't think that's a real heart. I think that's a fake heart that he did just to devastate Jordan in that scene or get him off the trail because, like, I don't know, like, from what we know about Lex Luthor, he doesn't waste resources. Like, a heart that beats outside of the body, that could create so many, I assume, scientific, like, discoveries, or can make a clone, or can do all these various things with that, I would assume. So, I think he's hiding that heart somewhere else.
Okay. Pagey, any theories that you want to talk about, or you want to save it for people to watch?
Well, no, like, sort of playing to what Darren was saying, like, I don't know if it was a fake out. Like, it easily could be the real heart. Mm-hmm. If that is the case, I'm intrigued to see how they would go about fixing that. But if it is a fake out, it wouldn't surprise me because, like, I mean, I do wonder if Lex had a purpose for the heart, or it was literally just because, well, no, if you take the heart, then he's dead. So,
trophy case, yeah.
So I am curious to see, like, I'm sure we'll learn about that hopefully in episode 3 or at least 4 and stuff, in regards to where things could go there. But yeah, it was. I am wondering though, like, would you be able to crush Superman's heart with your
That's a good question. I thought about that too. Whether or not that was possible.
Like, maybe because it's outside of his body, then maybe I don't know. Like,
that'd be funny if he tries to crush it. He's like, oh, it's not working. Oh no!
Yeah, like he breaks his foot or something like that. It's like, oh shit, I forgot.
Yeah.
It's too heavy. Oh.
Yeah. So, honestly, Staggervore here has the theory that I was going to talk about, which is, thank you for the super chat, Staggervore. Is what if they're going to use Doomsday's heart to bring Superman back, and so it becomes sort of this moment where,
sacrifice,
as you were saying, Darren, maybe Lois connects with Doomsday and he offers to save Superman because he's a monster and there's no fixing him. Maybe he chooses to, like, give up, or something along those lines. I don't know. I feel like that could be a good way to do it, or you're right, it could have been a total fake heart. And in this show, unlike a lot of the other CW shows, they don't always go with the guess that I would like. I'm like, this is the easiest thing to do. They don't always go in that direction with Superman.
Yeah, and also a big thing is that like Lex is clearly trying to, like, let's be honest, like fuck up the Kents mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
So he would know that Jordan's acting irrationally, going out on his own and doing this. So making Jordan think that the heart was destroyed and like what 99.99.5.7 point whatever percent canceling out the chance of Superman coming back to life, that would cause friction within the family and angst towards Jordan from specifically his brother, but also just like Lois wouldn't be like, Lois in the back of her head's going, this fucking idiot. What is he doing? Like, why did he do that? Like, that's what she'd legitimately be thinking, though she wasn't showing it. But Jonathan's really showing like what the reaction should be. Like, yo, we told you not to do that, and guess what you did? You did it anyway, and look what happened.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing that makes me think that it was a fake out, and also the fact that it's squished so easy. It shouldn't be that squishy. But if it was a real heart, whose heart was it? Theory Engine's alive.
I think it could have been. He's working on experiments. It's quite possible that it was just one of those like some experiment that went well.
Didn't some dude eat Doomsday? Didn't like Bizarro Doomsday like eat some dude last time? Maybe that heart.
That was Otis's ear, I think, wasn't it?
I know, but didn't he eat someone else?
Maybe.
Didn't he eat like one of because there's like all those random goons.
Oh, hold on. Let's not get sexual over here. I mean, I don't know what you're
the one getting sexual. Oh, just because I said goon.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
I was just kidding. Anyway, thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. And I want to talk about. We're talking about Jordan. Let's talk about this. The suit right here. I fucking hate this. This suit needs to die in a fire. It is like one of my least favorite suits I've ever seen on any CW character. And I don't like it at all. I understand.
You know what the hope is?
I get it, but
I have a feeling they've just set up that this is getting ditched anyway.
What do you mean?
Well, because he's like Lex knows his identity and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think he's like. I think he's gonna go literally what Superman does. Like Superman doesn't wear a goggles and mask and stuff like that.
I don't want spoilers, but I kind of want spoilers. Do we know if he gets a suit at any point? Like, do we know?
No.
I don't think we've seen.
Yeah, we remember there was like no set photos for Superman and Lois season 4, outside of like a handful of things here and there.
We need to give him glasses. So like how Superman puts on glasses, and that's his identity. We need to
or like a optional like face tattoo or something like that, like something where like when he's Jordan, he has like this rank disgusting face tattoo that says like Thug Life or something, like across his like cheek or something, like Thug on one cheek, Life on the other, and then when he activates into Super, it sort of like fades out. Or just when he gets home, between them, he just does like temporary tattoos and like rubs them on his face or something.
I wouldn't mind the suit if it didn't have these goggles. I think the goggles are what.
My issue with the suit is the like fucking Oompa Loompa like headpiece thing from like the Johnny Depp weird chocolate factory movie thing.
Yeah.
Like he looks like he's about to compete at speed skating at the Winter Olympics. Like, what's he doing? Like, that's the thing that looks. And you know why it's weird? Because Alex Garfin has like really big bushy hair, so you just looks so.
I
silly,
think that's
because here's the thing.
So
he looks
their defense,
fine.
I think that's why they have his head
No,
covered.
but like in that episode, when he's at home and he takes the goggles and thing off, he looks sick. He looks fine. He actually looks pretty cool in the suit when it's just him in the suit.
Yeah.
But it's the speed skating little. I don't know. Like he looks like a worm. Like like, I don't like the head thing. It looks silly.
Yeah.
In fairness, I do think that's the point. Like, I think it's supposed to look bad. Like, I think it's supposed to look a little stupid.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's meant to necessarily look cool because then there's no need to like want to jump to upgrade it or something like that. I feel like there'll be some form of upgrade in some way, shape, or form. But I think the biggest issue is just the fact that he has like a head condom sort of suffocating him. Like that's essentially what's going on there. It doesn't look that great.
So we did talk a bit, or I think you brought it up, Darren, how he went out and started doing things on his own and obviously making a lot of really dumb decisions. And look, Jonathan is not immune to this. He tried to go into Lex's apartment because of Sarah, that whole thing. I was like, this is the dumbest thing the dumbest idea they possibly could have came up with, to be completely honest. And then we got into the scene where Lois got a phone call from someone that sounded like Clark, but it was literally like a press 1 to save this person. I was like, is this the Joker? Is that what this is? Honestly, it felt like something the Joker would do. Like, yeah. I don't know. I didn't totally vibe with that, honestly.
It was the Slade thing from like season 2 of Arrow, where it's like, choose her or choose her. Choose kind of thing.
That's true. It just felt a little, I don't know, a little cheesy for Lex. Lex doesn't strike me as someone to do that kind of stuff. But anyway, we had the two boys kind of out doing their own thing. Obviously, Jonathan got saved by Lana, who has been coming to the rescue of everybody. Like in that scene where they were in the street, I was like, everybody's going to know that's Clark. And she sort of covered and goes, it's just Lois's good friend. It's like, give them some space. It's just our good friend. Like, wait, no. Anyway, this part right here, this is the part that a lot of people were talking about online, is whether or not kryptonite would affect him the same way it affects Superman, considering he's only half Kryptonian. I know we're probably overthinking it, but let's just jump off the cliff here with this. Do we think that these weapons would affect him the same way they affect his father, and theoretically?
I would imagine I think that makes sense to me. If he's not full Kryptonian, he probably has less of an effect on kryptonite, but also he's never going to be as strong as Clark, I would imagine, right? Like, since he's half Kryptonian, he's going to have half of his strength and half of his weakness. That just makes sense to me.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing, Eric. If I give you half a cup of Dr. Pepper.
Food reference. I know.
No, it's drink. It's half a cup of Dr. Pepper, but then also half a cup of cyanide. It's probably going to have the same effect as if I gave you a quarter cup of Dr. Pepper and a quarter cup of cyanide.
Right.
So that's pretty much what we're seeing here with Jordan, because he's already got half the ability, essentially, or hypothetically, because of being half Kryptonian. But then he'd have half the, resistance.
I don't think that's how it works, but we'll go with that.
But to be fair, he got through it. Like, he got up and...
I actually thought he was going to pull through it 100%. I was like, he's definitely going to, like, pull through this. Like, it's affecting him, but he was thinking about his dad. We get the scene with, obviously, Clark, facing off against him or whatever. I was like, just fly away. Just fly away. Like, why did he stand there and, like...
Is that a Lenny Kravitz reference, or is that just... a Superman reference, Eric?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. You're the one that said it.
I just thought he was going to fly away. That's all. But it is what it is. He stayed there and the heart got smashed. So, but I do think this is interesting because Lois was stressing him out by trying to compare him to his father, and so he was making a lot of rash decisions. And we have to remember, we've talked about this on Superman and Lois before. These are teenagers.
Yeah.
So think about all of the dumb shit that you did when you were a teenager. I mean, obviously you didn't fly out and face off against Lex Luthor, but you did dumb shit,
Ooh. I'm trying to think. What was the number one dumb fucking thing you did as a teenager, Eric? Because obviously Jordan's got a high one, got his dad's heart crushed by Lex Luthor.
Yes,
so
yeah, I
think he might have the automatic number one spot.
I actually don't think that anybody's gonna have anything close to that. And if you do, I'm gonna question like,
you probably have to be like a school shooter or something like that.
I would say the dumbest thing I did was, I'm trying to think of something that had like a catastrophic like problem, like something big that happened. Probably, I don't know if this is necessarily dumb or not, because I wasn't really a teenager, but I was still in high school. I turned 18 my senior year of high school. So I didn't have to like stay because I was an adult. So they didn't really have any control over me like they would have over me when I was 17. So I would sign myself out constantly and leave school. So I ended up having to like finish courses after graduation because I didn't get enough credits. So that was really dumb. Because I ended up having to basically graduate in summer school because of that. Which was like, I was really upset at the time. I don't really care now. It doesn't matter. But at the time I was really upset. So that was a dumb decision that I did as a kid. And looking back, it's like, why the fuck did I do that? I was leaving like an hour early. Like, what fucking difference does that make? It didn't make any difference. But
yeah, you
as
may
a
as
kid, I
well
was like,
just not showing up to school for the day or something.
Right. Yeah. I got to the point in either my senior year where I would just sign myself out whenever I wanted. And it was so funny because other kids would skip. But since I was able to sign out, it was always like, well, you sign out and then you could drop us off at home. Which is what they would skip and then I would drop them off at their house. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm going to totally get in trouble. Like, they're going to be like, you're harboring fugitives from school and dropping them off at home. Anyway, that was really dumb at the time. But did not cause anyone to have a heart crushed. So I feel like I lucked out.
Well, I don't know. We don't know what you did in that hour.
Break any hearts?
Breaking hearts, maybe. Crushing hearts, I don't think. Not so much. Y'all have any like horror stories from when you were like younger?
I was a lame teenager. I didn't do shit.
What about you, Pagey?
Not really. I mean, I was a witness to a lot of things. Actually,
that's a cop out.
Yeah, like it's not the same, but like I don't know, like nothing. I mean, there was little things like I picked up like a rock from a campfire and threw it in someone's tent, and it.
Oh, wait a minute. That's what?
They died.
No. So like set the whole tent on fire.
No. It melted through the bottom of the tent, and then he had a massive hole in his tent for like the next week, and it was cold and stuff like that.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Destruction of property check. All right.
Well, technically, I caused a minor car crash because one of my friends got his like provisional license, which is like what you get after your learners in Australia.
Yeah.
And we're driving, like he was the first one in our year to get it. So he was after school driving somewhere, and I just went like, just sitting silently, we just listened to music, and then I've yelled, "Watch out!" just to be a fucking dickhead. And he swerved the car and got onto the curb. Didn't technically crash, but it could have been much worse because it could have been a tree. Like I could be dead just because I decided to be a fucking idiot.
Jesus.
Anyway.
How many stories do you have? We don't have all day.
Well, there's only one more, and that was like,
well,
there was one more where I technically like accidentally knocked over a like porta toilet, like we call them a portaloo, but you call them a porta potty.
Yeah.
Because one of our friends was in it, and we were just sort of taking turns knocking into the side of it, and two of us went at the same time, and it hit like a sweet spot where it's essentially like started to tip, and we had to go on the other side and do it, but the damage was done within it. After we sort of tried to.
As you were talking about that, I thought about one other thing that I did that was really dumb, that potentially could have been dangerous, and I'm not condoning anybody ever do this. Never ever do this, okay? Because it's not cool. Even though it will not damage property, it is dangerous. So, you guys ever have those little bags of like poppy things where you throw them and they like make a poppy noise?
Like
you know what I'm talking
crackers,
about?
I think we call them.
I don't know what they're called. They're not pop rocks. I don't know what
they're like. Yeah, they go like a little. It's like almost like a magnesium thing, and you throw it at the ground. Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't remember what they're called.
So we were standing. Me and a bunch of our friends were standing in the front yard, and when cars ran by, we would just throw a handful at the car. So people in their car would just hear. Like,
well, at least it wasn't rocks. That's better than a rock.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it wasn't causing any like damage to the car. Yeah. But can you imagine riding down the street all of a sudden, like it sounds like these shots going off?
You think you're being like someone's decided to make you the victim of a drive-by or something? Yeah.
Like totally would be a problem, 100% at this point. So, yeah, I would never condone doing that, 100%. All right, so let's see. I've got a couple more quick notes to get through. Darren's gonna have her to Party Nation, and by the way, when we are done here, there will be a redirect for that at the end of my stream. So if he's already going to be live, you guys can head over. Let's see. Any thoughts on Amanda with Lex? I thought that was quite an interesting dynamic, 100%. Like, two of them.
I'm still wondering, like, if she's like evil or she's just like complicit in, like I don't know if she's actually been a witness to anything ridiculous. I mean, ripping out Superman's heart is pretty fucking evil, so she knows about that. But I'm wondering if like how complicit she'll get, or if she goes, hold on, this is too far. Like what's going on here?
How old is she? Because I don't know why I weirdly got like crush vibes from her. Like she kind of has a thing for Lex in a weird way, which she's like, I've been waiting for you all these years. I'm waiting for you to come home or whatever.
Weird.
I'm assuming they're playing her to be like maybe like mid to late 30s or something like that. I don't know how old the actress is. I'd assume she's around like late 20s or early 30s or something.
Right.
But
So weird.
yeah, it's hard to tell because obviously they knew each other, at least to a point where they have a relationship, I guess, before he went to prison. He was in prison for what, 17? Was it 16 or 17 years or something?
17, I think.
Like he was in prison before the twins were born.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess the last thing I want to talk about before we give our final thoughts is General Lane and that whole storyline. I Taryn found out already. I was going to give him a chance to give final thoughts. He had it out. The General Lane storyline. So, how did you feel about that? Like, did you feel like it was handled well, or was it clunky? I thought it was done really well, personally.
Yeah, like it was definitely like, I guess if you want to say there's a weak point in the episode, it was probably that, just because it was pretty disconnected, at least for the most part. But I was fine with it. I thought it was pretty hilarious how he had to like riz his way out with the with that Gretchen woman.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
To General Lane, the player, and but
at first I thought there was something going on with them preventing Jordan from hearing him, but I think it was just Jordan doesn't know how to do that correctly yet.
I think he just doesn't know how to like focus in on something specific, because that's just not, he wouldn't have learned it from his dad yet. Like he's learned how to like do his heat vision and stuff like that, and control that, and how to control his flying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he never learned which I think is actually a good thing, that they actually haven't necessarily like 100% focused in it. It's not like you've got like a minute monologue from Jordan going, damn it, man, Dad didn't tell me how to hear things. Like it's not like he stopped doing that. Like it's just played very organically. Which I thought was good.
All right. So I guess I'll give my final score on the 2 episodes together. I know you don't like do scores, so I'm not going to ask you, but
I can tell you out of the gate before you give yours. Episode 1 was a clear 10 out of 10. I had literally no flaws with the episode. I think it was a perfect episode. Literally nothing wrong with it in my eyes. With episode 2, if I had to give it a rating, I mean, I'd probably give it a 9. If I was wanting to be really, really generous, probably like a 9.5. Nothing really wrong with it. It's just that it wasn't as good as episode 1. But episode 1, as I said, was like amazing, like perfectly done. So like, you know,
I would say for me, it kind of feels the same way. I thought episode 1 was definitely the stronger of the 2 episodes, but I think releasing them together was the right decision. I think if we look at where episode 1 ended, if we had to wait a whole week, I feel like it would have felt weird to me. Maybe, I don't know. I think like they were released.
I think the big reason it was smart for them to do episode 1 and 2 back together was probably the outcome from episode 2, where the heart gets crushed, because people were like, because that was like a big motivator for episode 2, and then just gets crushed because Jordan was an idiot. Now, whether that's real or not, that's a wait and see. But it could have been a bit of a frustration thing. But I think episode 1 and 2 were very good complementary episodes. While it looks like, based off the trailer for 3, that's where we start to like dig deeper into things going forward. So maybe they just we'll get episode 1 and 2. It's a big premiere event. People will be happy, and also people get a taste for the season. Like episode 1 was very contained, like it was almost moving in real time to an extent, while episode 2 flows forward. So if you wanted to get a feel of what the season's going to be like and be about, you get that by the end of episode 2, while episode 1 was more of a follow-on from the cliffhanger from last season finale. So I think having them back-to-back was the smart idea. I don't think it was necessarily like it had to be that way, but I like the fact that they did it, and I appreciate the fact that they did them on the same night. Especially for like, you know, like a casual viewer, if that makes sense.
So I agree with that. I think all of that makes sense to me. I think your scores make sense to me. I'm excited for the season. And like I said, we'll be doing this stream at this time for the next 9 weeks. And then we'll determine what we're going to do after that. But that means there will be no stream late Monday nights, because I don't want to overlap live streams. So a lot of the news and topics will be shifted over to the Thursday stream. So those are going to be extra spicy, because it'll be like all the trailers and everything. However, before we wrap up this stream, because I do want to go for about another 20 or 30 minutes here, I want to talk about the Joker stuff that's going on right now, all the news that's coming out. Have you seen some of the stuff that's been being said about the film at this point, like with everything that Todd Phillips has said, all the stuff that's been going on.
I can tell you this though, and it was sort of we were talking about it. I remember like 2 or 3 weeks ago, that if the movie was going to make money, it was once again probably going to be like the word of mouth thing. But that's played out very similar to how the first one did, but in the complete opposite way. So more people went and saw it the first week and kept watching it because of word of mouth, and that it was this water cooler movie. But the second one's gotten like the antithesis of it, where people have like I saw a thing where people were canceling their tickets. Like there was someone took a screenshot, or they'd posted a screenshot saying, "Oh, this my screenings are selling," because like I think it wasn't tracking like amazingly, and someone had just how people on Twitter they take photos of like when they're booking tickets and go, "Oh, the cinema's like 3/4 full already, and it's like a week away."
Yeah.
They took a screenshot as they were sitting there, like they went to the app and everything, and just went to the same screen that they were at. And it was only about just under half full now. So a quarter of the cinema had cancelled their tickets after the reviews and stuff came out.
Crazy! Look, the movie, after all it's all said and done, only made $37.8 million domestically the first weekend. And the first film did $39 million on Friday by itself, just one day. I can't even truly rationalize all of this. I know that Todd Phillips has said that he never wants to do another DC film. Thank goodness, because I think it's very clear that whatever magic happened in that first movie was absent in the second film. They said the second film was based on a dream that Joaquin had, which that's crazy. Apparently Lady Gaga was signed on before the script was even done. So there was no script at the point when she was hired to be on the movie. They cut out a bunch of her scenes. Apparently, there's a whole segment of clips floating around online.
Well, apparently there's like 3 or 4 alternate endings.
Yeah.
But I think all the endings result in Joker dying and Joaquin Phoenix's character dying, but it's like just like how he dies.
Yeah. By the way, as we go through this, I see where some people are dropping out now, probably because we're going to be talking about this, and I don't want to. Some people may not want to get spoiled on it. I get that. We are going to talk a little bit about. We might possibly talk about the end, but look, the reality is, the movie's probably going to be on streaming within the next 3 weeks, most likely, which is crazy, but it's just not performing well. I think that this upcoming weekend is going to be a disaster for this movie. Just looking at some of the numbers over here. Let me pull this up. This is where it's at on Rotten Tomatoes right now. This is not good. I don't like to use Rotten Tomatoes, but I can't remember a time when the numbers were this close of something not being good.
Well, yeah, the biggest issue I don't think necessarily is the tomato meter, though some would push that. It's definitely that audience meter. Like 31%, like that's not good at all. That's really bad.
Here's the numbers here. It made 116 worldwide now, but that's still not good. Yeah, D Cinema Score. The D Cinema Score. That is the worst score I think any superhero movie or any comic book movie's ever had, like in modern times.
Well, like a C+ is disastrous. I
see a lot of people also trying to cope with this, right? They're coping with this by saying people just don't get it. They don't understand it. So you mean that all of the critics that literally talk about this stuff all the time, all of them go there, they're wrong. All of the viewers that saw it are wrong. I mean, yes, you're going to have people that are going to like stuff that isn't good. I've always said this before. You have to decide whether you like something or not. But pretending as if there's some deeper film here that people aren't understanding is cope. That's just cope language. It's kind of shill behavior a little bit. It's a little shilly, I'll be honest. Like, there's movies, like, I will admit that there are a lot of problems with the Eternals. And I've said this before. The Eternals, I think, may eventually come back and people are like, oh, it was a lot greater than we expected it to be. But I'm also not delusional. There's a lot of problems with the pacing of that movie. Some of the story elements didn't work. I get it. I'm not trying to convince anybody, but there's a lot of people on Twitter who are trying to convince everybody they're wrong and that this is some masterpiece.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're always going to get that. Like, and people did it with Morbius as well. They defended Morbius. Like, so,
well, Morbius had a better opening weekend than this. So,
well, domestically, I think worldwide, no. Like, I saw people saying
that,
not
like, worldwide, but domestically, yes.
Yeah, I saw people saying that. I think the Marvels, like Joker, did worse than Marvels, but well, domestically, I think it did, but worldwide, which is weird that the international is carrying it so hard, because I don't know what the ratio was like with the first one.
Yeah.
But it's like, what was it? So it's gonna have it has to make like 450, 500 to break even.
They said 450 to break even. They won't make any money at all after. It has to make more than that to make any money.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest.
Like
you said last week that you thought that 700 was a good number, right? Didn't you say it's 700? You still think that's a...
No, I said 800. I think I said 8 or like 750, 800, but that was under the presumption that it wasn't going to get absolutely fucked, because at that time, I think the Rotten Tomatoes, it was positive. It was positive. The Rotten Tomatoes, I think it was like 60.
It was still in the 60s, yeah.
It was like 61, maybe like 63 or something at one point.
Yeah.
So it's dropped over what 30% exactly, essentially, or just under 30%.
33%, yeah.
Yeah, so like it's crazy how much that changed. And like I mean, even as I said before, like people were canceling their tickets after like those reactions came out and stuff. And yeah, like it's very interesting just to see how I like, is this the biggest shift up in regards to, I mean, I guess the Marvel is competing for it eventually, like the biggest shift up from something that made $1 billion, yeah, sorry, 1 billion plus in the box office.
We'll have to see at the end what the final numbers are,
because Aquaman 2 was heading for that, but Aquaman 2 ended up having a decent run where it still was somewhat...
I think the biggest issue with this movie when it comes to word of mouth is it's just kind of a boring movie. I think that's the problem.
From what I still haven't seen it, because I just like, why am I going to pay like top dollar to go see a movie that's just objectively bad from what I've seen? Like, it just seems to be like shills, like funnily enough, the Batman shills that are like trying to defend it and stuff like that. And like, from everything I've heard, the first quarter to a third of the movie is pretty decent. It feels like almost like the first one in regards to the style. It feels like a bit of an evolution from that, but then it just meanders and just doesn't move forward past that point. It doesn't do anything interesting. The musical stuff isn't interesting. Everything I've heard is that it's like, it doesn't even feel like a musical. It just feels like they just randomly start singing for some reason.
Yeah,
like,
you know, it does. It feels out of place. Like I was saying, that like they just feel like the scenes they're injected into the movie.
Yeah. It's like, it's just weird, like, because it's just like when you do a musical, like if you break into your song and dance, it's meant to either move the plot forward in some way, shape, or form, or develop the person involved in said scene. So, like, it doesn't sound like that happens at all. Outside of, I think, the opening, like in the opening bits.
A couple of crazy things here as well. No screen testing for this. Like, they didn't like send this out for anybody to watch prior to the festival. So literally the movie is exactly what Todd Phillips wanted to be, because nothing was changed. A lot of that had to do with like this quote here. He didn't really answer to James Gunn. DC didn't really have anything to do with it. I think the only two people he had direct connection with were that's it. The two of them, and they really just kind of were yes men for him. Like, they really just said whatever you want to do. So he said that everything that happens in this movie is what he wanted to happen. This movie is his movie. This isn't one of those things where you can go, oh, the studio came in and made him change a bunch of stuff, or they forced him to do this, or they forced him to do that. This is a guy who said he wanted to get out of woke Hollywood because of comedy being ruined because of wokeness when he came in and he started making these kinds of movies. So literally this was his vision.
Yeah,
he didn't have anybody
that's the biggest issue. With the first one, it'd be fine if they were like, no screen test, because the budget wasn't high. But this was a $200 million movie. You have to screen test that. You have to see if there's any issues where you like the general public's not going to vibe with it, and that people aren't going to show up. You know, like that's you have to screen test that type of movie. And it's not like it's fucking Infinity War Endgame where people are going to, I mean, you can spoil any movie. Like, people aren't going to like go out of the way to like outside of the fact he's dead at the end, like no one's going to care. Like, the fact it wasn't screen test is really surprising to me. This is so I'm going to put this out there. I think that is going to be something the studio is going to make mandatory moving forward with these kinds of movies, because
this was bad for them. They could have made slight alterations based on the screen testing, but there was no screen test. Or test screening, I guess. THR reports the original ending of The Joker, the first one from 2019, featured Joaquin Phoenix's Joker carving a smile on his face in front of a crowd of supporters, but Christopher Nolan reportedly killed that idea, believing only his Joker, Heath Ledger, should carve his face. However, since Nolan is no longer at the studio, there was no resistance to this idea the time around. This is where we're getting into spoiler territory. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, this is my countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pagey, you've already been spoiled on this, right? The end of the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. So it ends up that Arthur Fleck was never the Joker to begin with. He's never been the Joker, according to Todd Phillips. He was only inspiring the next person to be the Joker. So that makes no sense either, based on the movies. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
As a viewer, I don't... What are we talking about here?
Can I interject here?
Yeah.
In the first movie screenplay, in the vital moments, it literally says in the screenplay, he is now the Joker.
Right.
The movie was called Joker. The second movie was called Joker.
Right.
What do you fucking mean he was never the
That's
Joker?
what I mean. And then we had, like, what was it? I think it was Francis Ford Coppola came out and, like, defended him. Like, oh, congratulations. On what? A massive flop? Like, this isn't an idea where it's just financially it's not working and a lot of people love it. It's got a high score on Rotten Tomatoes and Cinema Score and IMDb, and it's just not making any money. That's not the situation here. It's not making money, and all of the score places, all of them across the board, have said the movie is not a good movie. So the thing about it is, again, you can like bad movies, but at the end of the day, there's certain factors that studios have to look at when it comes to the success of films. They can look at fans and go, well, maybe the fans love it. Not the case here. Maybe the critics love it. Not the case here. Maybe it's financially it's going to show up. No, not the case here. There's nothing here that tells the studio that any of these decisions were good decisions. So there's nothing. We also have here, this is some of the things that people have said are the problem, like collection of the issues with the movie. So the idea came to Joaquin in a dream. Bad idea. Shouldn't make a movie based on that. Todd Phillips had free reign with Warner Brothers wanting him to do his thing, and the film had no test screenings. We've already covered that. New DC boss James Gunn had zero involvement, gave notes, but Todd Phillips didn't use them. So he didn't use any of James's ideas. So literally this is his baby. You can't place the blame on anybody else. I wonder if he's going to David Ayer this one eventually. Musical aspect was largely downplayed in marketing. We talked about this as well, with director Todd Phillips at first insisting it wasn't one. And not the only person. Lady Gaga said it wasn't one. But it is. There's a lot of musical numbers just shoved into this movie. If it's not, is it a collection of music videos? I don't know. What would you call this? Doesn't make any sense. Todd Phillips was secluded on a ranch during the opening weekend. Holy shit, I didn't know that. That's pretty funny. Cinema Score was a D, lowest ever for a comic book film. Needs 450 million globally to break even. It may lose the studio over 150 million. So that's the new estimate, is that it's looking at $150 million loss. Contemplated putting on a Broadway show before committing to making it a movie. So it's not a musical, but you wanted to do a Broadway show? Pagey.
I mean, it probably would have been better because they probably would have actually got a musical director to, like
Most
a theater
likely.
director to actually do it. So it would have probably been a bit more cohesive as a musical.
Lady Gaga signed on before the script was finished. Film had a huge budget. That's another problem, is the budget of this film. 200 million, including 20 million salary for Joaquin Phoenix and 12 for Lady Gaga. Christopher Nolan reportedly changed the ending in the first movie. We already went over that. Film was panned by critics, currently holding 33%. Yeah, we looked at those numbers as well. 37.8 million opening weekend, lower than Morbius and the Marvels, and Warner Brothers Discovery is already over 540 billion in debt.
No, just 40 billion.
I'm going to say 540.
Yeah, I was going to say you're taking a dollar sign as another one.
Either way, I can imagine that this might be the beginning of the end of just like put anything Batman out and people are going to love it, because we also have the Penguin running right now, which I know you haven't watched yet, but people are loving that series. They say it's really, really good. So you have this like juxtaposition of like Joker movie that made $1 billion, the sequel fails, but then the Penguin show is doing really well. So could this be a shift now? You think they're going to look at this and go, maybe we shouldn't put everything out that is connected to Batman? Do you think that's going to be something they're going to do, or?
Well, I think I mean, I've always said like you've got to give the creatives the creative workspace, but at the end of the day, they are an employee. You're the boss. You're just not going to let an employee do what they want. You got to check their work. And at the end of the day, whether it's someone doing an accounting report in an office or Todd Phillips making a movie, you got to check it, man, and go, okay, well, hold on, I don't really like what you're doing here. Do it this way, or change it up a bit and come back. You know, like the fact that this wasn't. There's no surveillance over this is a bit.
It was kind of like just saying fucking do whatever you want, which is weird because if you look at some of the other criticisms that both Warner Brothers and Disney Marvel have gotten, is that there's too much oversight on projects, and that's what makes them bad. But clearly that's not the case. I think a very healthy exchange of ideas is what makes things successful.
Yeah.
Unless you're a director that literally you're like funding your own project. If you've got investors and studios pumping money into it, they should have some say so over what you're able to do.
If you are like someone that's making in the modern day like a 10 to 50, like at least under $100 million movie, fair enough if like your creative license leans your way and like the studio gets like minimal to zero interference, whichever way it's going to go.
Right.
When you're making a big movie like this, whether it is Joker, whether it is Justice League, whatever it is, like there should be some sort of like some oversee with it, you know, whether it is from the head of the studio or just like the head of the film department, whatever it is specifically, or one of the producers on the movie. That isn't, because the thing is, all the producers on the movie I think are buddies. Like there's no like studio producer on it, I don't think.
Right.
Which is different than like some of the other DC movies and just like some of the stuff you see within Warner Brothers itself. So yeah. I mean, for Todd Phillips, I think like it's probably a good thing that it probably didn't succeed to an extent, because I prefer if he just went back to making the movies that he was making before it, you know, in some way, or at least, you know, in that, you know, playhouse. But yeah, like the thing is that like at least for going forward, DC's not gonna have to worry too much with it, just because like, obviously they're under like the umbrella of Gunn and Safran, and then Gunn's like involved with like half the projects in regards to writing and stuff like that. Now whether that continues, whether he just gets exhausted and or like, you know, the juice runs out and stuff, maybe that might happen in a couple of years and he just sits there and is more just a creative overseer. That's a wait and see, but you know, at least I mean, there's no excuses for Superman, so hopefully like Superman just does well, because
I'm hoping that they don't take the wrong lessons from this. I think ultimately this would be less of a problem if the movie had a similar budget to the first movie. I think then it would be less of an issue.
That's the biggest issue. Like, because like, hold on, what was the? Just let me look. What was the first movie's budget?
I think it was less than 100 million, right?
It was 55 to 70. So that just So let's just say 70. I mean, if it made 70, then that means it only has to make. I mean, what's that? Like,
it could be a $200 million movie in the box office, and it would have been able to make.
If you have a $70 million movie, you probably just have to crank a bit over 200 mil. Well, let's say 220 or something, and you're positive. I mean, after the first weekend, Joker 2's at 120 essentially.
Right.
So very, very, and then if you include home release and stuff, it's very realistic that you'd be able to break even. So, you know, like the fact it was 200 million is pretty mental.
Yeah. And looking at the cost of Lady Gaga and Joaquin, I don't think that played too much into it. I mean, it probably would have raised it a little bit, but I'm not sure how it ballooned to 200 million. That's a pretty big.
I think it was involved with the strike, but it's probably already like over 150 before that.
So we have a super chat up here from Staggervore, and then I think we're going to wrap things up. 49, do you think the 49 super chat, thank you, do you think this will stop Warner Brothers and DC from making movies centered on villains? I don't think so. I think it might make them reconsider how much leniency or how much control they allow.
I think it's pretty obvious based off what's said there. Just make sure that you've got an idea for the movie. Don't go like an actual like story for the movie. You know, it seems like they were going like they said they greenlit the movie without a script.
Right.
So you got to like write the movie. Like you could have a fantastic Deathstroke movie. But on the other hand, that same person who has that fantastic Deathstroke movie could get the movie greenlit before he writes the script, and then there's more pressure. I feel like there's like going to be like 10 times more pressure if the thing is put into development, but you have nothing. You have nothing. And also Todd Phillips and I think it's Scott Silver who wrote the script and stuff. They don't 100% have the pressure already because the first movie made $1 billion.
Phillips got $20 million up front as well.
Yeah, but he's also a producer, so he's already like that's where the money comes from, I think. Like
so
director, writer, and producer. So he gets like sort of like the old throwaway, if you know what I mean.
Anyway, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. I actually have to work tonight, so we're going to wrap it up here. But the after party will always be.
Hold on. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Can we get a tease at the playlist that's coming up at the DJ Airrick DJ Thon?
Well, I'm not playing music tonight, so.
Oh, what are you yelling at a microphone?
I go and I do marketing stuff on Tuesdays, so.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
make posters for events, email clients, all that stuff.
Here we go. Okay, can we get a Joker Folie à Deux themed promotional poster? And then you can say, this one isn't shit.
Technically, I could go live like on my phone while I'm there, just like to chat with everybody while I'm there at work. That would be funny. Because there's no music playing in the background. So there are people there. So we do the club that I'm gonna be at tonight. We do a game night. It's like Jackbox games and stuff like that. And so that's what's going on in the background. There's no actual like regular music playing. So
okay.
Anyway. But we're gonna head out. The after party will be at 5:30 on Tuesdays for the next 9 weeks. We'll determine where we're going to go from there. The Nocturnal Nerdcast will be on Thursday nights now, same time slot as it's been. And we're going to cover a bunch of topics. We have so many things to talk about this week. It's going to be insane going through everything.
The membrane.
Yeah, insane in the membrane. Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks for all the super chat support. Thanks everybody who are team members. I do appreciate it. And when I close out here, this is going to redirect to Lance's stream. So if you're going to watch Lance's show after this, in the chat, I want you to leave animals. So as soon as this directs over to Lance's stream, leave some sort of animal in the chat and let him know that you came from the after party. All right, everyone, have a great night, and we will see everyone later. Bye.